Every country in the world has something that makes them unique. So in this video, we're finding out what your country is the only country in the world to do. I mean, take the Swedes for example. They're eating the world's smelliest food. And while that might be strange, eating surströmming, as the food is called, is not what makes them special, but the fact that they're the only country in the world to have a special day dedicated to this. Surströmming's premiere usually happens on the third Thursday in August, and on this day, roughly 2 million Swedes put the stinky fish in their mouths. From fish to something else that sits on the water. In the Netherlands, that would be cows. Okay, wait, let's explain this. Here they have a floating dairy farm, being the only country that has such a thing. These people are just masters of water, and it seems like everything in regards to controlling it first started in the Netherlands. From draining the lands with dikes and watermills, to building a whole province called Flevoland. The Dutch, they can do it all. And now they also expanded dairy farms onto the water. The farm with a very clever name, Floating Farm, is located in Rotterdam, and it's the first of its kind. Leaving the water and moving into the forest of China. This interesting nation is the only country in the world where you can find a giant panda in the wild. In fact, China owns every single panda in the world and even rents them out to other countries to keep in zoos, for example. Oh, and they also take them back if the relationship between countries gets somewhat sour. In Romania, the proud Latin country located in Eastern Europe, you can find something that really needs to be experienced to understand. The Salina Turda, located in Turda, Transylvania, is a completely underground theme park. The former salt mine holds both a mini-golf trail, bowling, and a sports field. But you can also take a trip on the panoramic wheel. It's 20 meters high and is the only panoramic wheel in the world that works underground. Now, what's better in a theme park than a good old ice cream? Not much, I tell you that. And while ice cream isn't something special in itself, the country of Cuba holds something they're alone with, as they're the only country in the world with a state-run ice cream parlor. Copelia, as the place is called, is a huge place and can serve about 30,000 customers per day, and 600 at any given time. And it covers pretty much an entire block in Havana, the capital of Cuba. Now, speaking of big things, let's talk about Australia. I mean, sure, it's a huge nation itself and the 6th largest country in the world. But what makes them one of a kind is the fact that it's the only country in the world that covers an entire continent. And okay, before you choke on your noodles and want to tell me, but what about Oceania? No guys, it's not a continent. It's a region of thousands of islands, which includes the world's smallest continent, Australia. And while we're on the geography subject, let's talk about hemispheres. Simply put, a hemisphere is like a ball, or half of a ball. And the world we live in is divided into two sets of two hemispheres, the north-south and the east-west hemisphere. Now, what's super cool is that it's just one country in the world that exists in all of these 4 hemispheres at once. And that country is Kiribati, located in the center of the Pacific Ocean, right on the equator. Okay, so imagine you live in the US, right? And you want to start your own business, a liquor business, where you make the best drink anyone has ever tasted. You imported all the ingredients you need, did everything you need to do, and then you launched it. Just to get struck down by international law for calling your product tequila. You see, this law is very real, as Mexico is the only country in the world where tequila can come from, and even more specifically in the state of Jalisco, and a few other municipalities. And as you could guess, the town of Tequila in Jalisco is particularly famous for its distilleries. Now, for you who watched our episode about South Africa, you probably think this next thing is old news, because you're that smart person who watches Countries Explained videos and learns about the world on a regular basis. But for those of you that haven't clicked that subscribe button yet, here's some news for you. South Africa is the only country in the world that houses an entire floral kingdom. The Cape Floral Kingdom is one of 6 floral kingdoms in the world and is one of the reasons that South Africa has such a unique flora and fauna. Okay, so chances are pretty high that you enjoy watching movies. I mean, first of all, you're on a video platform watching this. And secondly, everyone likes watching movies. So what's your favorite movie industry? Is it Hollywood? Or maybe Bollywood? Or are you one of those Nollywood fans? Oh, you never heard of that last one? Well, Nigeria is the only country in the world that is home to this industry. And it's a huge one, the 3rd largest following the 2 mentioned before, with a projected worth of well over $6 billion. So what does your country have? A king, queen, or maybe a president? Either way, I'm pretty sure it doesn't have an emperor. Well, if you're not from Japan, that is. As this is the only country in the world that has a reigning emperor. And just like in the Scandinavian countries and Britain, this monarch doesn't have any political power, and the job is mostly limited to symbolic roles, such as performing various ceremonial functions. And while we're on the subject of leaders around the world, let's move from Japan to Europe and the country of Luxembourg. This country is the only Grand Duchy in the world. So what does this mean? Well, it means that the country is ruled by a Grand Duke or Duchess rather than a king or queen. Now, here's something for all you fantasy lovers. You see, there is a country in the world that is the only country to have dragons roaming around in the wild. And while these dragons don't live in caves and spit fire, it's still a dragon and it has been around this place for millions of years. The country I'm talking about is Indonesia, and the dragon is their national animal, the Komodo dragon. Indonesia is the only country where you can find the heaviest lizard on Earth roaming free in the wild. And for those of you who watched our episode about Indonesia, you know for a fact that this country speaks a lot of languages. And it's basically a melting pot for various cultures. However, there is one nation that has them beaten easily on that. That nation is Papua New Guinea, as this is the only country in the world where over 800 languages are spoken, making it the most linguistically diverse place on Earth. Now here's something pretty interesting for you. If you watched the previous episode of this series, you know that some countries have very unique flags, with shapes and patterns being super special. And the country of Mozambique is no exception, as they're the only country in the world with a modern weapon on their flag. There are countries that use weapons on their flags, but all of these are old ones like swords or cannons. But if you look closely here, you can see that Mozambique actually has an AK-47 on their flag. Why, you might wonder? Well, because it meant to represent the defense of the country, as it became the very symbol of defiance against both the Portuguese regime, but also the various civil wars. And speaking of the Portuguese in Portugal, that country is a great place to surf. And true surfers, they travel all over the world to catch those perfect waves. From Portugal to Australia and Indonesia, and to South Africa and Hawaii, there's a ton of amazing surf spots all over the world. But if I told you that the country of Gabon was a great place for surfing, would you believe me? Well, you shouldn't. But Gabon are actually very unique to something regarding surfing. And it's not humans who surf here, but hippos. The surfing hippos of Gabon are world known, and Gabon is the only country in the world where hippos enjoy the waves, just like this. And while we're on the subject of animals doing cool things and adapting to the situation, let's look at elephants in Africa, and more specifically in Namibia. Here we can find elephants that's been given the name the desert elephants, which is actually just a normal African bush elephant that has adapted to the specific climate. You see, Namibia is the only country in the world where elephants have their home in the desert. And these desert elephants have learned how to live in extreme temperatures and terrain. Now, have you heard of the George Cross? It's an award given to individuals who have shown exceptional bravery and courage, often at great personal risk. The award is awarded by the government of the United Kingdom, and a lot of brave men and women have received this over the years. But what's interesting is that one time the George Cross has been awarded to an entire nation. That nation that is very much alone about this is the country of Malta. They were given this in 1942 for their bravery during World War II. Have you ever felt like skipping a day? You know, when work and studying just gets the best of you. Well, maybe you should move to Samoa. This island nation is the only country that has ever done just that, skipped an entire day. In order to align better with their trade partners, in 2011, as December 29th ended, they simply fast forward to December 31st, completely missing out on December 30th. Here I was thinking that time traveling was impossible, but little did I know that the mighty people of Samoa knew how to do just that. Now, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe so you get notified on each new one we put out, and then click on either of the videos on your screen to learn more about the world.